The Yankees have made a huge trade acquiring third baseman Ryan McMahon from the Colorado Rockies in exchange for two minor league pitching prospects as the Yankees go ahead and push in a very competitive AL East and a very competitive American League for that matter, fighting right now with the Toronto Blue Jays to reclaim the top spot in the AL East and the best record in the American League. McMahon's not a rental as well. He has 2 years of team control after this for an expensive $16 million a year, but that means the Yankees have extended their competitive window a little bit longer and really solidified probably the weakest point in their team, which was the third base spot, and getting some production there. McMahon slides perfectly into there and will be someone the Yankees will be counting on for this season and the next two to try and win 3 World Series in a row. Will it happen? We'll see, but this is definitely the Yankees going all in on 2025 and beyond. The Rockies, in return, get back two pitching prospects who were highly ranked coming into the season in the Yankees organization, and that's exactly what the Rockies do. They know they can't sign free agent starting pitching, which is why you often see them going and drafting a lot of pitchers or acquiring pitchers in trade. And they're really hoping that the two pitchers they've acquired can be part of their rebuild in the long term. Although McMahon wasn't on an expiring contract this year, he definitely did not fit in the Rockies' timeline of a rebuild, especially given how bad they've been this year and only going to get worse now they've traded away one of their best players. These two pitchers fit better into that timeline and can help the Rockies compete in a couple years should they choose to do so, which with teams like the Rockies, you never really know if that's actually their intention. In this video, we'll dive into the Ryan McMahon trade that just happened about an hour ago at the time of recording, dive into exactly what the Yankees are getting, and also see what the Rockies are getting back and give some gut reaction trade grades to see which team has won this deal. Of course, it'd mean a lot if you can go ahead and subscribe to the channel. It helps me grow, says that you like this content, and you get a ton more trade deadline coverage for not only from me, but from other great creators out there as well. Without further ado, let's dive into this trade, the second big trade of the 2025 MLB Trade Deadline. The Yankees desperately needed to upgrade third base. That was probably their biggest need heading into this trade deadline, and that's exactly where they struck. McMahon isn't the best third baseman out on the market. That definitely goes to Eugenio Suarez, that crown. But McMahon was definitely a very solid piece. And without Suarez, honestly, he would be talked about a lot more. He is another lefty, which adds now a fifth lefty into their everyday lineup. And if you include Jason Dominguez as a switch hitter, that's now six. Plus their bench with someone like Ben Rice and JC Escara, that's a lot of lefties there. So that is a little bit of a weakness. They do have a ton of lefties in their lineup now, but he still provides some valuable additions in terms of offense and frankly a little bit of defense as well to a Yankees lineup that desperately needed a new third baseman. With a 217, 314, 403 OPS, Ryan McMahon is actually only hitting for a 92 OPS plus, which is below league average, but in actuality, that's around his career norms. He's actually never had an OPS plus above 100 in his entire 9 year career. So just goes to show you that he's not necessarily the best offensive third baseman, but he does still provide some offensive value. He's never been a big slugger so far this year. He only has 16 home runs, whereas his career high before that was 24. So he's likely to break that if he's to play the remaining 62 games. Who knows? Injuries happen, but he definitely seems to be on a career year in his home run pace, but he's also striking out a ton. He's always been a big strikeout guy. Last season, he had 185. 2023, 198. And this season, he leads the league with 127 strikeouts. That's not great, but if you have someone who does provide really good defense like Ryan McMahon does and provides a bolster to your offensive capabilities at third base, even if it's not a huge boost, I think there's still some value there. The other interesting aspect to this is that the Rockies actually retained about $8 million of McMahon's salary for this season. So the Yankees are only paying him about $4 million, which is definitely a very solid addition for a cheap player. Now, granted, in 2026 and 2027, the last 2 years of the contract extension he signed with the Colorado Rockies, that's going to pay him $16 million a year, and the Yankees are on the hook for both of those years, full money. So that is not great for them, especially for a guy who isn't producing super at a high level offensively. But for a third baseman that you can rely on as a bottom of the order bat that's going to be better than what you currently have, you can't really complain. The Yankees also don't have anyone in their minor leagues who are really able to make the jump in the next couple of years at third base. Their top prospect, George Lombard Jr., definitely is not a third baseman long term. And if you go down the list, you just don't see a ton of players that are going to be able to profile at third. So this gives them the time to go ahead, get someone who can be a solid contributor at third base, rebuild their farm system, maybe either decide to re-sign McMahon long term after his contract is up, or go their separate ways and backfill with either a free agent in the class of 2028, or maybe sign someone as a top prospect either in the 2026 draft, or go out in free agency once McMahon is gone and sign someone else. I don't think he's a long-term fix, for the Yankees' third base problems, but he is for the next couple seasons someone who will be a solid contributor. And it's better than just acquiring a rental who can only help you this year when your competitive window does span multiple seasons. The top prospect heading from the Yankees to the Rockies in this deal is left-handed pitcher Griffin, who was the sixth-round pick of the Yankees in the 2024 MLB Draft out of LSU and signed for almost $800,000, which is significantly higher than the slot bonus for the sixth round was expected to be. He was a very important cog in the LSU bullpen as they won their 2023 national championship game, but his stuff isn't great in terms of a raw pitch mix. He has a solid fastball, about low 90s. It does have some nice run to it and makes a little bit of deception, making it harder for hitters to hit. But the lefty's main pitch is his slider. That's his really big calling card and is why he is able to get a ton of batters out when he does end up on the mound late in games. Right now, he's pitching in high A across 44 and 2/3 innings pitched. He's stricken out 44 batters, so a solid about 9K to 9 ratio, a 2.22 ERA. He's definitely been doing well in only 20 walks, so solid stuff there so far when you look just at the stats. Herring is basically cemented himself as a reliever at this point. He had a changeup that he only threw 11 times during his entire 3-year career at LSU. He's used it a little bit, especially in that Cape Cod League where he did start a couple games. But long term, he is going to end up being a reliever most likely. Maybe the Rockies want to push him into a starter role, given that they gave up McMahon for him. But I just really don't see it. He really needs to work on the changeup if he's going to be a solid starting rotation piece. You need to have 3 pitches, and right now he really only has a average fastball and an above average slider, which puts him as a very nice spot to be a middle, maybe lower high end reliever guy in terms of leverage. But you just want more from a player who's going to be a starter. So I think he is going to be a back end bullpen piece for the Rockies long term. And maybe he unlocks something out of that changeup, but I just personally don't see it. He has really great splits against lefties as well, and at only 22 years old, he's still pretty young and can definitely go ahead and make his way up the minor leagues pretty quickly. Given the fact that he's already doing very well in high A, maybe the Rockies are aggressive and promote him to double A right off the bat. Who knows? Facing the competition at LSU definitely makes him very close to pitching at the lower levels because you're getting a lot of high schoolers there. So he definitely has experience facing top level competition. It wouldn't shock me to see him end up in Double A by the end of this season, and maybe even the major leagues by the end of 2026. He's really great pitchability, and at 6'2", 128, so a little bit of bulk that he could add on, maybe increase that velocity just a little bit. And if he can, then maybe he is the next closer for the Rockies. I definitely see him more as a setup guy, seventh inning kind of guy when you have a couple lefties coming up. But definitely is able to get hitters out from both sides of the plate and is going to be a solid bullpen piece for the Rockies going forward. The other pitcher heading back to Colorado is Josh Grosz, who was the 11th round pick in the 2023 draft by the Yankees and signed for the slot $150,000 out of East Carolina. He was very young when he did come out of East Carolina. He wasn't even 21 as a junior after he finished. So he definitely is still developing, growing. He's also just 22 and at 6'4", just shy of 200 pounds. Seems to be this is exactly where he'll end up in terms of his velocity and stuff like that with his fastball. Not a ton of growth left on his frame. He has a 3-pitch mix, a fastball that he's been able to add to that frame already, which is why there's probably not a ton of room for growth. It's touch 98, probably sits around 94 on average. And so that's a solid fastball, maybe a little above average because there is some deception there, which is nice. A lot of high spin rates. And then a solid slider and changeup and some decent control that gives him the ability to be a solid back end starter going forward. I don't foresee him being a dominant starter. He doesn't really have that wipeout pitch or that insane deception. But at 6'4", he definitely has the ability to be a power pitcher on the mound with those high spin rates and a little bit more break on some of the balls, like a slider, which has really improved since he left East Carolina. If it doesn't work out, he does have the potential to be a multi-inning reliever simply because his stuff is good enough. We talked yesterday about the Josh Naylor trade and how some of the pieces there just didn't have a ton of potential in terms of their pitch mix to be a reliever long term. So Ashton Izzy's probably stuck being a starter. Grosz is more likely to be a reliever if it doesn't work out as a starter, which gives him a little bit of a higher floor, just the ability to go ahead and give you valuable innings at a major league level, even if it's not in the starting rotation. His numbers so far are very solid. He's played in 16 games, started 15 of them, in 94 strikeouts and 87 innings pitched, and that has led to a 4.14 ERA, but not necessarily something to be super concerned about. That is a little high, but for high A, not a huge difference. He's about age average for that level, so you're not super worried, but we'll see exactly what the Rockies want to do. He's been pitching fine. He strikes out a lot of batteries, but time will tell to see exactly how good he'll be long term. Now that we've discussed all the players, let's actually grade this trade and see exactly how each team did. For the Yankees, I'm going to give this trade a B. I think it's fine. And of course, I've said it many times. Third base was where they needed to address. But if I'm looking at who's available, and Eugenio Suarez is almost 100% getting traded, you can't tell me that you weren't willing to pay up to acquire him. There's no way that the Yankees wouldn't be able to do that. And yes, of course, you're getting a man for 2 extra years instead of Eugenio Suarez, who's going to be a free agent after this one. I still just don't understand why you wouldn't try and go all in this year, and you can always acquire another third baseman at next year's trade deadline. Yes, the price was probably going to be a little higher for Suarez, even though he is on an expiring deal simply because of how amazing his season's been. But again, if you're the Yankees, you have the ability to do that. You can go ahead and trade from a wide variety of depth that you have. One thing that is in their favor, though, as the Yankees, is their prospect rankings are full of pitchers. They do a really great job of acquiring good pitchers, and that's exactly what the Rockies needs. It was a good match made in heaven, and I can understand why you'd want a controllable piece, but in my opinion, if you're looking solely at what the Yankees needed at third base, their defense was fine enough. They really need some offense. And McMahon is an upgrade, absolutely, but he's also not really an above average hitter, and that's just hard to manage sometimes. If you're the Yankees and I'm a Yankees fan, I would not be stoked about this. Yes, you're getting multiple years of control on a former All Star, but is he really the best player you could have gotten, especially with a week to go before the deadline? Again, Suarez would have a much higher asking price, most likely, and the Yankees are probably priced out, which is not something you often hear. Might be the Mariners going and acquiring Suarez again, but I really don't see why the Yankees wouldn't be willing to do this. If I was Brian Cashman, I know I would have much rather had Suarez right now and figured out my third base situation long term later than gone ahead and acquired someone who will be a third baseman for me for the next couple of years, but might not be the star that I want him to be, especially given that he's making $16 million a year for the next 2 years. Now, as we shift over to Colorado, I'm going to give this a C+. I've already mentioned why the Rockies need to acquire pitching talent in their trades, because if you're a free agent pitcher, you know you're not going to go to Coors Field and put up great numbers. It sucks, but unfortunately, it's just kind of how the cookie crumbles. I actually don't love either of the players they've got, though. I mentioned the Yankees have a ton of minor league pitching depth, and I just don't think they got super valuable pieces. If you look at who I think maybe should have been the centerpiece of the deal, especially given that there's multiple years of control for command, and that you're looking at someone who just got priced out most likely of the Eugenio Suarez market, you could have gotten a Chase Hampton, a Henry Lillane, maybe an Elmer Rodriguez Cruz or a Brock Selvage, right? I think there were some places where you could have actually improved your team even more. I just don't think the return they got really matches what they should have gotten from a player who, at a high level, is going to be a multi-year starter for a team. There's nothing to say that Griffin Herring and Josh Boras aren't good players, but are they really difference makers? I don't know. Grosz is going to be a potential solid fourth, fifth starter for the Rockies, and if you look at Griffin Herring as a back end reliever, just doesn't sell me. The Rockies, I don't think have ever been known to make great trades, and I think this reputation happens for a reason because I'm sitting here and I don't love this deal for them. They're getting two solid pieces, yeah, of course, right? You're going to get decent players when you trade away a decent player, but I just don't know if this is the best they could have gotten, especially with so much time left in the deadline. It's a tough place to be because you have to take the deal that works for you. If it's a yes in your models, you take it. You don't wait for something better if you already have something that's going to work because maybe better never comes. But I really have a hard time feeling like this is the best the Rockies could have gotten, especially again with time to negotiate and teams getting more desperate as time goes on. I feel like there could have been something else done. That's just my opinion, and maybe things work out. I hope they do for the Rockies. Rockies fans need something good. I feel bad for y'all, but this is not a deal I personally would have made if I was the Rockies GM. Thank you all so much for watching this video. It's so great to cover the MLB trade deadline every year. I love doing it, and I hope you guys enjoy this video. It'd mean a lot if you could subscribe. You get more trade deadline coverage from me and also baseball content from all the other great creators out there, and I hope to see you all in the very next video.